So, our exciting day is finally here. We have finally received the molding that we are going to be using for this project, and we're going to be cutting it today and sanding it, preparing it for the joining process, and finally making our project complete. If we think about the components of a piece of art, what piece do you think is the least able to be modified? That's the piece that you need to be using as your base measurement for your molding. So in this case, the glass or acrylic is probably the one that can't be changed. So I ordered some acrylic online and it's been delivered. It was custom cut for this. We're going to measure it to make sure that we're cutting the molding for the right size, and then we're going to proceed from there. So let's do some quick measurements. Alright, so the height of this particular piece is 31 7/8. And the width is exactly 24 inches. So they shorted us a little on the height by 1/8 of an inch. So we have to take that into account as we determine the size of our frame. Now, typically when you cut frames, the molding, the rabbet is what you're concerned about, where the pieces are going to lay. And it's the back of the rabbet that is really the part that makes the length and width of the trough proper. So typically what you do is you add 1/8 of an inch to the height and width of the molding in order to give it some movement room. And then in our instance, we're going to be doing rough cuts and then molding, then sanding of the molding. So we're going to add another 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to add a total of 1/4 inch to each one of these. So the width will be 24 1/4, and the height will be 32 1/8. So we'll do the initial cut at 24 1/4 inches, and then we will sand off 1/8 of an inch to make it proper. So let's go ahead and make our first cut. We're going to go ahead and cut the first angle and then sand it proper. And then we're going to go ahead and measure from there and then cut the second piece and sand it down until it's the proper width. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so we have our janky miter box here. Let's go ahead and make our first cut. One of the things I learned as I was doing my practice cuts is you want to cut the molding from the back side. In case the saw slips or anything like that, you won't score the finish on the front. So we're going to cut this molding from the back, and then we'll do the sanding. Okay, and there's our first cut. Let's go ahead and do some sanding. Alright, so the way that the sanding works is we're going to put our molding right in here on the 45. And you're supposed to score the back. And then put it on here. And then we're just going to give it a quick, you rotate into the face of the molding. So we're going to all we're going to do is make sure that this is nice and smooth at a good 45. Alright, nice, smooth, good 45. Now we're going to measure along the back of the rabbet, and this is going to be 24 1/4 as our cut, and then we're going to sand it down to 24 1/8, which is our target width. So let's go ahead and get a little measurement here. All right, 24 1/4. Right on. Now this doesn't have to be exact, but the 24 1/8 one does, because that's where we're shooting for, and this one has to be an exact duplicate of the one opposite it. So there's 24 1/8. All right, let's get the cutter, cut the other side. we have to arrange it so that we're cutting across the back of the bevel at the cut point. That's the measurement point. We have to keep that in mind. That is so very important, because if you make a mistake here, you ruin your molding and you have to replace it. So 24 1/4, right at the back of the rabbet. All right, so let's prepare to cut. We want to put the saw in, and we want to confirm that the saw lines up with where that pencil mark crosses the back of the rabbet, and it does. So now we will saw. All right, now we have both sides cut. We need to now sand this second side down to the mark, and this needs to be exactly the same size as the other one we've created. So let's go ahead and shift around our sanding guide. I want to make a little mark that goes around at the 1/8 mark. You know, it looks like we're already at the 1/8 mark. I'm just going to do a quick sand like we're supposed to. One mark, quick sand to smooth it out. Let's take a quick look, because our cut we may have been very lucky on our cut here. Okay, so we have to sand off just a 1/16. Okay. Okay, that's perfect. Let us compare this. Just so you know, I did make a test cut just a minute ago of the first one before I started doing this, so let me go get that and we'll do a quick comparison. And so here we have our first two widths cuts, and if we look at it, they're both perfect. The lengths are exact, the corners are perfect. So these don't go together, of course. These are opposite ends. These are the widths, top and bottom. We have these done. We're going to cut these last two, and I won't bore you with any commentary while I'm cutting them. We'll just zip through it with a little time lapse, and we'll finish it up, and we will be done with the cutting and sanding of our molding and be ready for our next step. So we'll be back to chat here in a minute, but in the meantime we'll be doing a little bit more carpentry work, so be right back. Alright, so we have cut the 4 pieces, we have sanded the 4 pieces, and if you look, we have the 2 widths. Next, you put the rabbets together. The rabbets are perfectly of length. The outsides are perfectly of length. The corners are nicely sanded. Everything is prepped and ready for the next stage, which will be when we actually are going to be joining these with our Logan joiner. So come back for the next one and we'll finish off this project. At least the frame part we'll be able to get completed, and we'll have it all joined up and be ready to move on to our final stage where we put all the pieces together. All right, all done on this one. Thanks for coming by. We'll see you next time.